them!
Webbs, hit it!
Alright, a DreamWorks animated movie about those who society perceives as bad guys who realize they don't want to be the bad guys anymore and are on the road to redemption. Pretty sure I've seen this one before, but it's missing something. Something that makes it different from the others that have come before it. But what could it be?
Presentation!
Hello everyone, my name is Ryan, and I have opinions on why The Bad Guys fails as a heist narrative. Okay, so aside from the fact that I do genuinely think that Megamind handles the villain redemption story better than DreamWorks The Bad Guys, which isn't saying much, Megamind is one of the best villain redemption stories ever made, I don't have many comparisons to make between the two. I just really liked the idea of using that clip as an intro. Also, my best video was comparing one bad animated film to another great one with a similar title and thumbnail, and unfortunately, you gotta play that YouTube algorithm game. Also, I do think that the primary failure of DreamWorks The Bad Guys is its presentation as a heist movie. The heist genre is a well-known and beloved plot structure that has been around for almost as long as we've told stories. One of the aspects of heist movies that has made them so ingrained in pop culture is the unpredictability of them. Heist movies thrive on the art of the plot twist, and along with murder mysteries, are one of the few plot structures that audiences go into expecting an expectation subversion. The standard outline is the assemble of the crew sequence, the planning sequence, the execution of the plan, and then some sort of twist or wrench in the plan, causing a pivot. From there, there's usually another twist, something along the lines of a character having been an inside man all along, or perhaps that the crew was expecting the plan to go wrong and that was all part of the plan originally. These are all classics, and I'm sure many of you had a couple of films come to mind when thinking of examples of those well-trod plot threads. That's where modern heist and murder mystery movies get very interesting to me. With so many unique twists having been done before, movies have gotten more inventive and, in many cases, more meta with the genre, towing the lines between parody and playing it straight. These are the types that really stick out to me as creative filmmakers come up with ways to surprise that are incredibly entertaining. On the other end of the spectrum, The Bad Guys is what happens when creative teams, instead of trying to be meta or inventive, say, F it, what if we just throw random twists that make no sense and no one will see it coming? And sure, if your only goal is to surprise people, that would just about do it. The disappointing thing about all this is, if they just hadn't tried to surprise people for the sake of keeping them on their toes, The Bad Guys could have been amazing. I loved the art direction and animation style right from the trailers, and boy, was the animation and action the best part of the film. Anytime there was a car chase, I was amazed. I kept thinking I'd love to see a Fast and Furious type movie in this animation style. And look at this action sequence. A Crimson Paw prequel where she just beats up nameless guards for 120 minutes? Please. The character work was passable as well, and while that may sound like a criticism, it's really not. I was invested in the crew, but a lot of their character beats have been done before and done better, so it wasn't amazing and couldn't pull the movie through its rougher narrative parts, which, again, was just the asinine amount of twists that are there basically for the sake of fooling audiences. In recent years, the plot twist has gotten a bad rep. Now, when the average moviegoer hears the word plot twist, they're more often than not likely to roll their eyes and scoff. However, many are forgetting how impactful a plot twist can be when used effectively. Movies like The Usual Suspects, where there's a big mystery over the identity of one Kaiser Soze, only for it to be revealed Soze is the character who has been telling us most of the story, making it understandable that the facts don't line up, as he is intentionally misleading detectives, and by extension, the audience itself. Or The Sixth Sense, arguably the film to solidify the art of the plot twist in the pop culture zeitgeist, uses it to reframe many odd events throughout the film, such as characters never directly interacting with Dr. Malcolm. In these movies, plot twists are used to recontextualize the film upon a rewatch. This is commonly done by dropping many hints that eagle-eyed viewers may very well be able to pick up on to figure out the twist during their first viewing. Sometimes this is a little more blatant than others, and in cases like those, many writers deploy red herrings and misdirects, as audiences have been getting more and more savvy to well-telegraphed plot twists. I'm sure that I'm in the minority of viewers that actually take a lot of joy in piecing together a movie's narrative before they are spelled out to me, so I understand people being disappointed when a twist is a bit too obviously laid out. Where I think most people can agree, though, is when being blatantly lied to comes off as a cheap way of keeping a story's secrets close to the vest. And I'm not talking about a character's lie, like where the killer tells us it couldn't have been him, he was on the other side of town at the time of the murder. I mean the filmmakers themselves presenting us with misleading information in a way that makes no sense once all the secrets are revealed. And this, to me, is the bad guy's greatest sin. Okay, so I'm about to massively spoil DreamWorks The Bad Guys, so I hope you clicked on this video either not caring about it or having already seen it. Otherwise, give this a pause and go watch it right now. Alright, quick rundown. Mr. Wolf, Mr. Snake, Mr. Shark, Mr. Piranha, and Webbs are a crew of anthropomorphic criminals because, basically, well, they're scary animals. I mean, everyone knows about the big bad wolf. How can he be anything other than a bad guy, right? Honestly, I liked this core concept, as I really like stories that play with ideas like this, like the big bad wolf, such as in the comic Fables or its video game counterpart, The Wolf Among Us. Unfortunately, this opening comparison is about as far as they go with it. Anyway, they're performing a job that goes awry because Wolf spies a little old lady, and for some reason, he can't resist the urge to try and nab her purse, and in the process, saves her from falling down the stairs. The old woman thanks him and calls him a good boy, causing him to start wagging his tail and feeling very good. Again, loved this play on domestication, with a dog feeling a sense of purpose by being called a good boy, but it gets a little bit muddled later on. Because of this distraction, they're caught, arrested, and just as they're about to be carted off, Wolf plants the idea that they can be redeemed into the humanitarian Professor Marmalade's mind. Cue montage of them trying to become the good guys, and oh boy, wacky hijinks ensue. Of course, to the rest of the crew, this is just a clever way to avoid jail, but to Wolf, it's a conflict of turning away from the monster everyone sees him as. Long story short, they get framed for a job by none other than dun 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 Marmalade. It's Professor Marmalade. He did it. Honestly, it's a twist that's not needed, as I think the internal conflict of Wolf, as well as the interpersonal conflict of the crew, is more than enough for drama. But otherwise, it's an okay twist, pretty standard. But then comes the twist within the twist. Marmalade was disguised as the little old lady all along, meaning it was all part of his plan to get the crew caught at the original job, have them try to clean up their image under his control, and then frame them for the job that he was planning, which is stupid solely in its execution and how it's presented to the viewer. In so being, it's a blatant lie on the part of the filmmakers. To understand this, I need to kind of explain a few things, most importantly, Mr. Shark and his role in the story. See, Shark is the archetypal master of disguise of the crew, and we see that portrayed as, you guessed it, an obvious shark figure in wigs, dresses, and fake mustaches. The thing is, this is played completely straight. He regularly fools people, even people looking for specifically him, a giant shark known as a criminal chameleon. However, the little old lady looks exactly like a human little old lady, not Marmalade's diminutive guinea pig physique. This is done simply so the audience has no way of knowing anything is up with this encounter, and it's just so odd because why did it have to be Marmalade disguised? Why not just have a scene of the woman meeting with Marmalade, then taking some of his money, implying she was hired? Like, the movie intentionally ignores its own established rules of disguises specifically to fool the audience, and in just a dumb and unnecessary way. Speaking of unnecessary, the whole plan, don't get me wrong, I get heist plans need to be overly complicated, especially when revealing the plan within a plan bit, but yeah, Marmalade just seems to make the weirdest choices. We've established it was odd to disguise himself, but why use the little old lady ploy in the first place? You're banking on not only Wolf being unable to resist stealing from her in a building surrounded by people who have expensive bags and trinkets while in the middle of an important job, but also that in doing so will lead to him having a positive reaction to being thanked and then become distracted from the main job. Then you bet on him suggesting that you would be able to reform them. Yeah, Wolf doesn't just vaguely beg for a chance of redemption. He specifies that Marmalade would be the one who could do it. You were compared to Mother Teresa earlier. Would it really have been so weird for you to suggest reforming them yourself? Alright, this is getting a bit nitpicky, yes. But the thing is, that's the problem with the suspension of disbelief. If you've earned it, all these little plot holes can be easily overlooked. However, when you blatantly lie and break your own internal consistency, there goes my suspension of disbelief, and everything tumbles like dominoes after that. Oh, by the way, speaking of unnecessary, yeah, let's just go ahead and label the entire third act of the film as such. So, after being broken out of prison, the crew goes their separate ways after Wolf's internal conflict comes to light, and while trying to stop Marmalade, we learn that Mr. Snake has teamed up with Marmalade as revenge. Then, through another beautifully animated chase sequence, the plans are foiled and Mr. Snake is back with the group, everyone having made up. Except, twist! Snake never actually sided with Marmalade, and actually used his plan against him. But, this is revealed after everything's resolved, and I don't mean it was resolved because of what he did way. I mean, they had returned the stolen money, and the MacGuffin that Marmalade was using had been switched out by Snake roughly 30 minutes earlier. So, if he had neutralized the device and the money had been returned, why did he keep faking being their enemy? Hell, even before that, there's a moment when Wolf is left to certain death if it wasn't for the other members of the crew busting in to save him, which wasn't something Snake told them to do, he just kinda hoped it would happen. And then they almost all die when they're getting back together and are only saved last minute by the payoff of a grapple hook gag that the film had been building up. All of this was just so convoluted and unnecessary, it seems like it was only made for that gotcha, the plan within a plan went out flawlessly moment. This is accentuated by the fact that right before the credits roll, Wolf implies that he set things up to trigger Snake into having a change of heart, meaning that the plan within a plan was really Wolf's plan within... Okay, my head hurts. This is clearly done as a joke, as there's no way Wolf could believably set everything up like that, but that's kind of my point. It's just a case of the filmmakers trying to get one last gotcha moment in before the end. Why? Because good heist films have twists. Lots of twists. Right, guys? In full disclosure, I knew about the marmalade being secretly evil twist before I saw the film, as I was spoiled via a YouTube clip. However, I had no idea about the old woman disguise, as I thought that was a genuine character moment for Wolf. Nor did I know about, well, everything in the third act. The initial twist, as I said, was fine, and I was more going to watch what I was expecting to see, a character study of someone struggling with recognition for who he is and wants to be. Instead, I find out that the pivotal moment in the character's journey was not only a lie to the character himself, but to every single viewer watching. This is probably the harshest critique I've ever lobbied at a film, mostly just because I want to highlight the absurdity of it all, while also not comparing it to about 15 other films that have done the same thing better and make this video even longer than it already is. All in all, The Bad Guys was entertaining. It's just a shame such a fun to watch film is not so fun at all to think about.